Hello everyone, good morning. Just checking that my mic is on. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Solid Ground. I think we're up to 45. I'm losing track. Not quite the 75, which Straight Talk achieved last night. So the Straight Talk panel, which Bob started a little while back. 75 episodes. Quite amazing. So thank you all for your support of this and all the various programs. For those who are new, Solid Ground basically talks around cultural, political, ethical, social issues of the day. And I just delve into them from a good foundation, a solid foundation. Theology, philosophy, I'd say good political thought as well. But you can be part of this. This show is live. This is not pre-recorded. I am sitting in studio. And because of the great modern technologies, I can get to people's comments. And that's the next point. So good morning quickly to Catherine and to Disarray and to Jackie. Just like them, you can jump online. If you're on the Family First Facebook page or Family First YouTube channel, those messages will come directly to me here in studio. If you are on something like my Facebook page or LinkedIn, I'll be able to see your comments later, but they won't appear to me here in studio. So guys, as I say, wonderful to have you along. If you want, as I say, give us a shout out. I've got people from YouTube currently. I can also tell where the commenters are coming. So Catherine, Disarray and Jackie, for example, are all coming through the YouTube channel there. Look, there's lots to talk about as always. In fact, I'm not going to get to everything this morning, but I wanted to start with what I see as a series of good news, actually, bits of things which are good news. We've got Rosie. There we go. Rosie, you also win the first comment through Facebook. So good morning and welcome. Well, as you know, actually just really quickly, Bob is back on deck now. So we are back to our regular broadcasting people. So Bob will be doing his daybreak on Mondays, Wednesday, but not this Friday, because of course it's Good Friday. He'll be taking the day off. And I'll be doing Tuesday and Thursday. So just a reminder on that. Look, and also thank you to all who have actually donated. This has been like all donation drives actually. People have been very, very generous and we are grateful for that. But as I say, it's your support, your financial support as well, your prayer support, which makes a big difference. So thank you. To Jill, good morning. And to Alex there, lovely to have you. Rose, good morning. Another Rose. We've got two Roses. No, we've got a Rosie and a Rose. Melanie, good morning. Oh, love it. I wonder this. Look at that. I don't know how that technology works, but Rosie nailed it. There we go. To Gordon says good morning. And Gillian tells us it's a bit damp up in Kerikeri. Here, actually, there's quite a storm coming. Anyway, good news, because often I'm pointing out problems. Kia ora to down there in Kirikiriora, or of course as we know it as Hamilton as well. I have to say I'm needing to polish up on my Maori. I learned it at university, but my foster girl has and whakapapas to various iwi, so I'm needing to top up and be better on my Maori. It's all very rusty. To Jarena, good morning. To Lynette, and Jackie says that the YouTube alert, that is good, because sometimes, even though it's always around 7:30, can easy to get distracted. And to Neil there, good morning. Anyway, I keep saying about good news. So firstly, this is actually coming from Australia. This is around all this gender stuff, to put it far too ineloquently. Long and short, there's been a court case where a mother was trying to force basically their child into what they call gender-affirming care. The father said no. This is terrible. It ended up in court. Long and short, the Federal Family Court of Australia has said this is just completely and utterly wrong, and definitely not in the best interests of the child. The judge is slammed, as you can see from that quote. I took it from Rachel Wong group called the Women's Forum. Rachel might be known to some people here. We've had her at Family First before. Wonderful, wonderful young woman. Long and short, the court threw out the case. They said there was no good evidence for what they were doing to the child. The judge actually slammed various advocates, including the supposed top medical professional, who said basically it was misleading the court. So just get that, the medical professional, so sort of the equivalent of our WPATH here in New Zealand, those very few doctors that seem to take a delight in actually doing real physical harm to children. He was slammed by the judge for basically lying. And as we noted here, ideology has no place in the application by the courts of the law. And so good on this judge. I think it's really, really positive and a really good step forward. It also shows just how badly New Zealand is out of step, because we do still allow parents to force their ideological beliefs onto their children now in a physical way. So again, this was a mother, if I recall the case correctly, or rather all the details, was basically wanting to get the child onto puberty blockers and then onto cross-sex hormones. And as we all know, it's a train. Once you're on it, very hard to get off. So good on this judge. I think it's excellent. Catherine notes a turn of the page. Yeah, to actually side, in this case, with the father who was saying, look, it's just a little girl, just leave them alone. But I've said it before. I think one of the problems we have in this space is the adults. And Katie Faust, who has been at the Family First Forum, I've done a podcast with her and caught up with her recently in London, she talks about them before us. You have to put the children before the adults. And I fear in a lot of cases around this gender stuff, it's adults trying to look open and tolerant, and it's a novelty almost to be able, oh, well, my kid is non-binary, etc., etc. They seem to get sort of reward and kudos in our society. Of course, they've mutilated their children, but that seems to be lost on them. But as Alex said, it is good news. I think it's very positive. And Cherie, lovely to have you along as well. We've got Rabbit Hole, lovely to have you here. And Philippa, I know I'm clicking through these fast. I could take all morning saying hello. Other good news is this just came through this morning. This is Casey Costello. She is an Associate Minister of Health with New Zealand First, actually. And she's told Health New Zealand you are to stop calling pregnant women pregnant people, or describing women by... I'm trying to think of the delicate word to use in the morning. Describing women by their body parts. There we go. Keep the show G-rated. So I think this is very positive. I mean, you've got, as you would imagine, the mainstream media have gone running after some LGBT activist who masquerades as an academic. I think one from Victoria University. I don't remember their name, to be honest. It's completely irrelevant. But they're arguing, oh, well, it's not inclusive. Well, the only thing that pregnant people includes is men. And as Sal Grover and Carolee Smith, so both who I've had on the podcast here at Family First. In fact, a reminder, we have Carolee Smith coming, and this is actually what Juliana's referring to. Carolee is before the courts in Australia for refusing to use pronouns. And Sal Grover, of course, is, could take too long. I've got to get her back on the show. But again, she's fighting back. And Sal in particular would say that the only people who are being included here are men. So this whole falsity around inclusion has two problems. One, as I say, all you're including is men, usually quite aggressive. A number of women are saying, it doesn't matter if they're in their sport or trying to get into groups like this, is usually men or people trying to be men. So in this particular case, it's obviously biological women who are getting pregnant. They're now acting as men, and they seem to be picking up some of the worst traits of men, which is again asserting themselves in a way that's just not appropriate or respectful. The second is we're all about truth. And only women get pregnant, and our language should reflect that. Because fundamentally, and this is what the left and progressives, the woke, whatever you want to call them, want to do, they always try to manipulate language. And you see that in all sorts of ways now, and this is just one of them, to manipulate language. And I always remember the quote, it's attributed to Voltaire, but it's not quite. But he says, if you can make people believe in absurdities, you can make them do terrible things. And he's right. again, it's not actually quite him, but we won't go down that rabbit hole, so to speak. It's the fact that language manipulation is trying often to take you away from what is true, what we can observe. So good on Casey. That is great. And as I say, if you're pregnant, you're a woman. You can dress as a man. You can think you're a man. You can try to, if you will, dominate this space over other women. But you're a woman. It's as simple as that. So good old Casey there. And then what I thought was brilliant too, this is from last week, just after my last show. The White House has said they're going to ignore journalists who use pronouns in their bios, and I thought that was brilliant. As well as I wrote on social media, people can use whatever terms they want of themselves. I think that's perfectly fine, but the rest of us don't have to play along with that delusion. And I suppose it's my encouragement to people is don't. This is the way we're going to turn all of this back. It doesn't matter if it's things like this, trying to pretend that people are. And Jackie, actually, just really quickly. Casey comes under heavy fire because she stands up, basically, and I suppose that's my key point here to people is do stand up for these issues. Don't play along. You don't have to be an activist like Billboard Chris standing on the side of the street. You don't have to be, if you like, Bob and I speaking out frequently and I think relatively strongly. You just don't have to play the game, just like the White House is doing here. If you want to play your pronouns, you can, but we're just not going to use them. You can choose to use them. I can choose not to. Easy as that. So good on America. And as I say, for us here in New Zealand, we just don't play along. When your employer says you need to put, your pronouns at the bottom of the email, to go, no thanks. And if you get into trouble, get in contact with us, because actually there's people now able and prepared to fight for New Zealanders who are being, for want of a better word, persecuted by these new ideological zealots of wokery. In your schools, don't stand for it. Just going to put this up. I think I've read this right. Yeah, this is how we do fight back, or how we push back. And again, it starts also with us. In other words, just don't think it's Family First or the Trump administration or other leaders in the field like that judge in federal court in Australia. It's each and every one of us who just doesn't play the games. And Philip has nailed it, just never going to play along with it. So don't. That's the key. Just don't play along with it. And also, though, you can still be respectful. You can still be respectful. I mean, you just call the person their name. But we're not playing to delusion, because actually that doesn't take us down a very good path. And I'm seeing that more and more. I haven't really touched on it here too much, partly because it's probably easier to write, but we are getting massive manipulation of language. We're being told to believe things which are patently and empirically untrue. We're embracing pre-Enlightenment sentiments now. Science has been pushed to the peripheries in some areas because people just want to believe something else. I mean, it's just absurd, and we have to push back. And speaking of absurd, actually, Bob, better not phrase it this way. This is Bob's latest Mick blog. It is good, but he's pointing out the absurdities of these pink shirt days, and basically what Bob's arguing in this. Sorry, you just hear my voice in the background. What Bob is saying here is actually this whole pink shirt day is really just a front for the radical gender and sexuality ideas of Inside Out and others. And so he just goes through and shows what's really in behind. Because, of course, not bullying is a good thing. We don't like people being bullied. But the pink shirt day is really just a front for pushing quite a radical LGBTQI agenda. And Bob just goes through in his Substack. So to go to substack.com and find it there. So, as I said, some good stuff. And why I mentioned that pink shirt days, again, if you're a parent, push back. Call up your school, ask the principal, are you going to do this? Because they don't have to. I know many schools actually are pulling away from it now because it's got far too radical. Again, no one likes bullying. Just as, no one likes being disrespectful to other people. But when you come into schools with radical sexual indoctrination, radical stuff, with a singular agenda, then that has to stop. In the same way as, deluding oneself around the truth, it has to stop. And Rosie says, wasn't it originally? Yeah, it was. Bullying for all reasons, including bullying people who are LGBTIQ+, whatever it is now. And that's not right. But what's happened is this has been completely hijacked by effectively one side. And it's just all about LGBTI, all the reading. Sorry, that's not quite true. a lot of the books are all about promoting those lifestyles. So look, there's major problems, and rabbit hole's correct. Good on Bob. He's prolific. I haven't written a Substack since this one. That was last week, so I've got to get one out. This was pointing out all the problems we have with the government greedily going after charities, but I'm trying to write my Substack this week. But yeah, Jackie's saying here too, she's seen that McBlog, so Bob is great. He not only writes, but he turns it into a McBlog. Speaking of that, and then, now where is it? Oh yes, speaking of this radical, crazy agenda, I just saw this morning. David Fisher is supposedly a senior investigative journalist, but he's running and continues to run interference on and behalf of, it seems, this Green MP Benjamin Doyle. So remember, this is the guy who not only uses what appears they're all allegations, but deeply inappropriate emojis, deeply inappropriate wording in and around and related to children. He's a man who seems to have made up a number of things, from his disability to his whakapapa to the fact that he has a PhD and a whole lot of other things. Long and short, the Herald here, David Fisher, continues to play interference because, boy, we shouldn't be asking any questions around this. So here's this headline that there's a security expert. It's behind a paywall, which is why I wanted to share it with you. So David's already written a piece, I think last week, again running interference, blaming everybody else except Benjamin Doyle. So you've got this protection racket, basically. But David Fisher goes on now to say there's a security expert that says Doyle faces violence and stalking threats. Well, look, first and foremost, we don't like any violence or anyone being stalked, period. Secondly, this is the gaslighting we've talked about before. There are and remain serious questions for the Greens to answer, including how they are and have handled things. But this is a narrative trying to develop that it's Boyle who's the victim. He is not in any way, shape or form. And it turns out, and get this guys, if you haven't been able to read it, the security expert, and I can't say his name properly, but it's that academic who used to run the Disinformation Project. It's like Hata Owa or something, and I apologise, I genuinely, I don't have the name in front of me. But there were two of them that ran the Disinformation Project. So there was Kate Hanna and this other fellow. Long and short, that's the supposed security expert. The Disinformation Project. Isn't it fascinating how these individuals who have caused so much damage as the Disinformation Project did, basically censoring people, making things up and wild suggestions. Well, this doctor as an academic doctor, has popped back up and has been a convenient person for the Herald to interview to now come up with this, he's under serious threat. And the guy's not a security expert. He basically reads social media posts, and if they're right-leaning or conservative or Christian, he hates on them. And if it's left-leaning, he loves them. And that's sort of how the Disinformation Project worked, as we all know from those torrid COVID days where they were there taking millions and millions of dollars from Jacinda to make sure that none of us were allowed to have a say on various matters. Now, speaking of, and I should start thinking about, yes. So Brad's got an excellent, the irony of these campaigns is the left are bullying, so they ardently oppose, is actually the same kinds of things. Oops, I can't see the whole thing. Let me see. Here we go. The irony of these campaigns, this is what Brad says of the left, is that the bullying they so ardently oppose is actually the same kinds of things these leftists use against conservatives. Think, for example, of Posey Parker and so on. Yeah, that's actually, if I might, that's a very astute point. But I've also mentioned this before, the hypocrisy that often comes out of the left. Inclusive, but not of you and me. We're all for diversity, but Christians can bugger off. That's sort of their general approach. Good morning, Darren. Sorry, I read that wrong. Darren, lovely to have you along. And yes, as Philippa says, they're all supposedly these experts. As I say, this guy used to run the Disinformation Project, one of the funnier, more contradictory names, and now supposedly an expert. But the key point here is not only misleading headlines, it's that continuation to gaslight the public and make Benjamin Doyle supposedly the victim. Hey, just a couple of other quick topics, because one's from overseas, and I'll jump back to New Zealand. Just this, because it's not, as far as I'm aware, when I woke up this morning, not being reported in New Zealand. This is the Governor Josh Shapiro, is the governor of Pennsylvania. Long and short, a man broke into the residence just after Passover and has torched several rooms of the house. I just thought I'd mention it because Governor Shapiro's Jewish. As we know, Passover has been celebrated this weekend. In fact, the governor was there with his family and another family. It was just after they'd had the celebrations. Now, look, we don't know the exact motivations at the moment. Let's be really clear about that. The person's been charged with arson, with terrorism, and a whole lot of other charges. Now, again, that's quite normal. The police will throw a lot at a suspect and then dial it back with the evidence. I find on a cursory reading with the abuse that Josh has suffered because he's Jewish, he's been very strongly targeted by the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas. I mean, they're one and the same. They've targeted him. I think it's highly suspicious that he's being targeted on Passover. Again, quite violent. It's no surprise there is continuing frequent violence for these people who are involved, and it's got to stop, as he said himself. But as we keep saying, anti-Semitism is that canary in the coal mine of intolerance. And again, the people who run around yelling and screaming about their pronoun use, or that you have to talk to people about pregnancy, are also often the ones leading quite aggressive, both here and overseas, aggressive and sometimes violent actions. Again, think Posey Parker. Last couple of points. This popped up. This is actually it's not so much good news, but a really good initiative. And I don't know where, because I put this up last week, or rather I read it last week and I've forgotten exactly where, but I think it might be done by the likes of NetSafe. So look, long and short, there is not an actual library filled with harmful content. But what I think the likes of NetSafe or others have done, have put together a fake library, but have put in it all the various books which are very harmful to children. And what they're trying to illustrate is just what your children can access online. So when you go into a public library in Kerikeri, or in Auckland, or in Invercargill, or in Taupo, or Timaru, or wherever, generally the kids section's a good kids section. But they're trying to point out that actually your device, so the iPads, the phones which children get, provide the children with the world's worst library for children. It's filled with harmful content. And we know it. And actually, I'm encouraged to see this. Once again, they're a bit behind the eight ball because Family First has been here talking about this for years and years and years. And last year we had this guy on, Dr. Jonathan Haidt. He wrote a book called The Anxious Generation. If you're a parent, I really encourage you to get hold of it and read it. It's an easy read. But the basic premise is we spend a lot of time keeping children safe outdoors. So we won't let them walk to school. We're worried if they climb trees. Be careful of this, be careful of that. And yet we hand devices, digital devices like iPhones, to children, and they can access everything. Harmful porn, violence, you name it. And it's having a terrible impact on them. So long and short, Family First has been advocating around this for years. It's good to see actually media are finally catch up. You can jump onto Family First YouTube channel and search Jonathan's name, and you can actually hear his presentation last year. And then just save the date because we've got another forum this year. There's my voice. Another forum this year. Well, there are the dates, which will be great. I'll try to, by Thursday, to actually get some of the videos of our guest speakers. I mentioned to Carolee Smith earlier. She's a wonderful women's rights activist in Australia. It's going to be lovely to have her over. Miriam Grossman's back. She's, again, a wonderful speaker around development. A young woman called Amanda Ackman. I know her. She's a Canadian, speaks very strongly into the pro-life and the euthanasia space. So an amazing lineup of people. And speaking of amazing lineup, if I can find it, which I don't think I can for some reason, that's okay. It can't be input. Oh yes, I'm going to almost sign out with this, but just to give you a reminder as we wind down for the Tuesday morning of all the great content you can get with Family First.
If you're looking for news that you can trust, commentary on key family and social issues, and conservative conversations, go no further. Family First has them all. Start each weekday informed. 7:30 a.m. live, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, Daybreak with Bob McCoskrie as he gives an overview of key stories that you need to be aware of. 7:30 a.m. live, Tuesday and Thursday, a more in-depth discussion, Solid Ground with Simon O'Connor. On Monday nights, live at 8 p.m, watch Straight Talk with our panel. Thursdays, live at 5 p.m, political playback as we discuss the week in Parliament and New Zealand politics in general from a conservative viewpoint. You can watch all of these features live and also on demand on our website, Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. Plus, there's regular episodes of social commentary with Mick Blog and weekly interviews in Family Matters. There's also additional commentary on our website, and both Simon and Bob are writing on Substack. Finally, something worth watching that you can trust. Go to familyfirst.nz for more details.
So as you can see, absolutely no shortage of content. And there, I've got to find some time to write my Substack this week. Last couple of comments, so thank you, Alex. Catherine says a lot of them are being controlled by woke. Yeah, look, that's a bit of a problem. In fact, my podcast last week with Dr. Kevin Donnelly, now granted he's from Australia, is talking about the various rainbow pushes into libraries. Again, trying to force libraries into certain, well, if you will, political stances. And unfortunately, a lot of librarians seem to buy into it. I want to stress, though, Catherine, this one that I referenced this morning is, if you will, a virtual library. It was set up to illustrate the problems that people can get on devices. Gillian notes that it's going to be Daffodil Day. Absolutely, actually a great cause, obviously, around cancer research. And a lovely comment here, Rabbit Hole's got having one of these mugs. So actually another person, Fiona, if you're watching, it's on its way. It's on its way. Obviously, if people want a mug, get in touch with me. We've been primarily doing it when people donate, a generous donation. Anyway, and Catherine says she's on her second cup of coffee. That's what I'm going to do now. Guys, I'm going to head off. I've got to actually take some of my family to the airport, so I should do that. So look, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. Well, actually, hopefully on Wednesday at Political Playback. But I'll see you again on solid ground at 7:30 on Thursday.